Wavect, the web-free software company that understands what you want.
Hi everyone, welcome at Wavect. Today with Mitko Dimitrov. Long time no see, thanks mate for being here, it's really a pleasure talking with you. And for everyone who doesn't know him, he is the founder of Web3 Adventures and has a really amazing newsletter. So if you haven't signed up yet, do so. I will put the link into the video description as well to chill a little bit for you, mate. And yeah, today we will talk about, or at least we will start with networking in Web3. So starting out, mate, I want to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself, to add some things that I might have forgotten about, and yeah, what are you working on as well?
Yeah, I'm Mitko. I got into Web3 in the bull market of 2021. Kind of missed out all the really cool stuff that was minting, and then I bought the wrong stuff, so I ended up losing quite a lot of money. Just shy of 20k, unfortunately. But anyway, that's lost stars. And yeah, then I decided maybe it makes more sense to build instead. And then I got even more into like understanding Web3 and like why it's important. And then at the start of 2022, I got a grant from the Scottish government, and that allowed me to hire two brilliant lads, and they helped me in consulting a few clients. And then when we parted ways, I was like, right, how do I do what we did before, but in a different way? And that's kind of when the newsletter came out, because I was just spending a lot of time on Product Hunt, on Smoothie, and just looking at different businesses so I can learn from them, so I can steal their ideas, like outright steal their ideas, especially how they get customers and how they do their marketing. And I was like, what if I share all this information with someone else as well? And then I was like, I should just start this newsletter. And then I just kept prolonging it. And there was this friend of mine, great friend of mine, who's actually almost like an advisor at this point. Well, definitely an advisor, almost like a mentor. His name is Dan. And he kept bullying me at the start, like towards the end of July. I was like, when are you going to start your newsletter? When are you going to start it? And at the start of August, which is like 26 weeks ago, I started it. And yeah, that's where most of the focus is going right now, figuring out how to make it the most value-packed newsletter that a founder can read, or someone that's interested about Web3 and how to move in the whole space can read. And then and from there, now we're introducing more elements that will add value, such as Twitter Spaces and a few other things that I can't talk about just yet. And again, the whole idea with that would be that ambitious founders will come up and talk about what they've done before. So hopefully they give other ambitious founders the opportunity to learn from them, to get insights, to network as well. And yeah, I think that's it in terms of an intro.
Cool stuff. Talking about your newsletter, because I don't have one, right? So I have no idea how difficult it is to actually build something like that, right? I know there are tools that you can send these emails in bulks and all that kind of stuff, but the actual difficult part is actually getting sign-ups, right? So I don't know, what are your experiences with that? And maybe do you want to share your, let's say, golden nuggets with us? That would be awesome.
Yeah. So the whole, just quite a few people have now asked me, just because they see it like coming up now, they'll ask me like, oh, should I start a newsletter as well? And I'm like, you should, yes, but it is absolutely brutal. And I really mean that. It's nothing like that I've ever done before, because by itself, the newsletter, you don't get any feedback, like literally barely any feedback, unless you've like kind of incentivized it. It's so difficult to get feedback. And I get feedback by 2-3 people recently, and it only started like 15, 17 weeks in. And before that, there's nothing. You just kind of see the open rates. So you don't know if what is resonating, what you're writing is resonating. Obviously, you can look at the data and how much is open, but it's really difficult to get going, especially at the start. But once you kind of get over that and you start going and you kind of start learning what works, what doesn't, it does get better, and hopefully it will get fun. for me, it's kind of fun. The fun part is researching the newsletter, the different businesses. But now, like, what's becoming to be a lot less fun is like sometimes I don't have them done in advance. So I need to like do them now. So for example, I'm in Spain now and I need to put out the newsletter on Sunday. I've got no idea who I'm even going to write about. So it's all these things you got to think about and have a few in advance. I imagine you as a podcast host, you have a few in advance. That's what I'm trying to get at. But yeah, in terms of like what works, that really depends on like what, in what capacity you want to do it. If you want to do it as a main thing or as a side thing. But probably the biggest growth unlock for me was to actually focus on the numbers and get obsessed with the numbers. And that's why I did whensponsor.me, so I can literally go in every single day and monitor. Right, this day we did 3, this one we did 10, and kind of keep myself accountable. And I decided to take a step extra and put it open source. So maybe someone else out there as well is looking and be like, oh, right, Mitko's slacking on this day. I don't know if people do that, but the idea that someone could be doing that is pushing me. So I've started a lot more to think about, right? Wow, okay, I need to do something today that I've not done. What am I going to do in terms of content this week? Like, yeah, I can post about that meme, but will it actually get me subscribers? So it's maybe a lot more like strategic, if you will, and let's put my focus a lot more in there. And now I'm like super product focused, and I am very more like focused in terms of like other things I don't pay attention to as much. And yeah, I just constantly keep thinking about it, like, how do I provide more value, one, and then how do I distribute that value? So another kind of like growth unlock that I did was I put my screensaver on my computer, and it says 2 things, literally black screen, and it says, so goals, and then 1, write the best newsletter, and number 2, grow subscriber base. So number 1 is about increase the value as much as possible, and number 2, spread the word. So this is the only thing that I want to work on.
That's cool. That's awesome. And you said something that I personally haven't thought about yet because I didn't have to. And that's that it's really difficult to collect that feedback from a newsletter. And I can just imagine, right, when we send out the emails to our workshops for kids, for example, right, you only see these open rates. And I didn't think about what if you send these things regularly. You have no idea, right? And that's a really interesting point. And what you also said is that mindset thing, right? It reminds me a little bit of, let's say, when you're building something, as you do, right? Being entrepreneur in the space or in general, you just have this, let's say, thought, what if my competition does something today or more than me, right? And that's a really interesting mindset, which I personally think one can overdo, but at the same time, it's a really, really great pusher. You know, it really pushes you out of the comfort zone because, you know, being comfortable is always being punished. I think that's from Grant Cardone, right? I'm not sure if you know him. Yeah. But really love that. And getting back to the feedback section, how did you actually overcome that issue? How do you try to collect feedback or try to solve that in future?
One thing that I did now is I started posting the newsletter on LinkedIn because most of my community is on LinkedIn, and I do get some feedback now. And then in terms of more feedback in the future, what I plan on doing is the people that I speak with, even if it's not regarding the newsletter, I'll be like, what do you think about it? Especially when I speak with founders, like, why are you not subscribed? Like, what do you want to see that you currently don't see? What would you like to see? Or what do you like seeing in other newsletters? And just getting more feedback from people that are also not readers. And then in terms of readers, I've been thinking a lot more about how to incentivize the feedback stuff. But that's not worked out yet. So
yeah, it's, you know, it's always increment, repeat, get better, right? That's how the harsh business world actually is, right? So that's the cool and difficult part at the same time.
Exactly.
Awesome, that's super cool. And I personally would be really interested to read about that, even if it's just a LinkedIn post. But that's definitely something really exciting, getting those feedback loops especially when it comes to something that's actually just a one-way communication channel, right?
Yeah.
So thinking
By the
about
way,
that.
it is really good that you're saying that. So, the idea of a newsletter is that you have an audience, and I don't like having an audience. I like having a community. That's why I don't call the newsletter readers my audience. Earlier, I also said community, and that's one of the main things. Is like, because right now, if I'm honest, it's an audience, unfortunately. So I've been thinking a lot about like how do I turn it into a community, and that's why I've been looking at different platforms that allow people to come together and speak. But I don't want it to be Discord. I don't want that. It might be to start with, but it might be something else. I don't know. But I've been very much thinking about, right, how do I do this? Maybe I do a free mint collection where the readers get to mint, and it'll be like anti-hype, so there shouldn't be any speculation about price and all these things. And then because like I really want other people to, if they want, of course, to be able to contribute and get rewarded. Like I'm big on getting the community rewarded. So yeah, maybe release a collection. I don't know.
Yeah, why not? It always depends on why you're doing it. So, as you said, if it's for hype, I think 2021, 2020 is
Yeah.
over, right? But utility collections, why not? Right? We just can't expect these things to go viral, being fully minted, right, within the first hour. Things like that could be difficult now. But if you're in for the long term, actually want to provide value, as you say, then I don't see any reason besides maybe regulation, depending, although NFTs are not that difficult from that point of view, why you shouldn't do it. So it costs money, it's work, yeah, right, and utility needs to be defined. But the thought model is cool. Awesome. Yeah. What besides gathering feedback, right? Let's maybe stay a little bit at the newsletter section, because I think that's definitely something where you can provide a lot of insights into this podcast that I personally don't have, and many viewers probably have don't have as well. Are there any other, let's say, issues that you had or have to overcome besides collecting feedback?
Well, figuring out where you're so with all the business things, it's like, right, who is your target people, target customer, whatever you want to call it. And personally, just because of the way the nature of the business of the newsletter is, like I'm still struggling to figure out exactly who I'm writing for. But I know other people will certainly not have that issue. And if someone is thinking about it, I would definitely say, like, think about it from the start, and then figure out where those people hang out, and that's going to make your life a lot easier. So that's one thing that I've been figuring out, like, who are the people that read my newsletter, and why.
Okay, yeah, that's a good point, right? Especially, I consider this a startup as well, right? You try to monetize it at some point, maybe not, I don't know. But in the end, it's some kind of service or product what you're doing, right? Even if it provides a lot of value and it has a super tiny or no price tag at all, you're trying to get something to people. What I'm thinking when it comes to these kind of things, the target audience and all that kind of stuff, how to say this, why, or let's put it that way, because I'm hanging for a second. Or let's put it that way. When I'm thinking about getting a newsletter, that I think that has something to do with the target audience as well. I personally I hate newsletters for that simple reason that my email box is super full. I get distracted by it, and that's definitely one communication channel where I'm only responding to high priority things, right?
Yeah.
And have you thought related to that to you said LinkedIn, but to also have some kind of other communication channels besides maybe Discord or actually building a community, but having this one-way communication in some other way to circumvent issues like that, maybe. I don't know, or is it just me? I don't know. Could be.
No, it's
but
me as well, and that's a big reason for why I didn't start the newsletter earlier. Like before I even like thought about doing it, there's this guy Nick James. You probably know. He told me like long time ago. Like I think that was even March. It was like, Mitko, you should start a newsletter. But I was like, no, I hate getting newsletters, and like I'm subscribed to a few, and I like some of them I even miss, but every now and again I go in and check them out. But yeah, I know what you mean. Like they're really annoying, especially when they start piling up and you type the name of someone and it's like, wow, 11 missed emails. Like, wow, thanks, nice. But you know, there is value in some of them. So yeah, in terms of like how I'm gonna circumvent it, it's gonna be a lot about Twitter Spaces. So I really want to start curating the community around Twitter, and even though again that's another part where you don't really control the algorithm, but yeah, there's gonna be like part of it, and then Discord or I don't know something else like a community platform.
You brought up a really interesting point, and I think this needs to be highlighted a little bit. Newsletters, communities, and so on have one huge advantage over social media. You are not dependent, or you don't depend on an algorithm, and if it changes you have a problem, right? So that's definitely a huge advantage. So definitely makes sense. Besides that, because you want to build an actual community, right? I know you're searching for tools, and I'm sure you have some kind of thoughts on that, on every tool and how to approach it. But when you have chosen your tool, do you plan to convert your existing audience to a community? How to get people from your mailbox from your mailbox to your community, whatever tool you're using? What are your plans there? Some kind of incentivation structures? Well, if you join there, you get that exclusive content. I don't know.
No, I don't plan anything like that. It'll just be a link. Join if you want.
Okay.
If not, stay in the emails. Yeah, because I know not everyone will want to be doing it, and some people just want to read the email. So yeah, I don't have plans.
Okay. So actually aiming for quality, right? People that don't read the newsletter or just delete it right away, just like me most of the time, unfortunately. Even if they're good. For example, I also recently subscribed to Pete's newsletter. I think to yours at some point as well. But yeah, I try it all the time because I know they are full of value, right? I know it. But yeah, as said. But yeah, totally makes sense. Only quality people, right? People that actually read your content and engage with it. So that's a cool strategy. So what I'm curious about is your long-term vision a little bit. You know, newsletter, maybe or maybe not, monetizing that, but what is your grand vision, you know, besides just gaining your subscriber count?
Yeah. So the long-term vision really comes to what Web3 Adventures was in the first place before even the newsletter was born, and what it's currently is, but in the background and the stuff that I don't talk about too much. But essentially, what I plan for the future is it will be. I really like need to put that on paper, so I need to come up with some white paper or something like that. But yeah, so I don't know how much I want to talk about it because I'd rather write about it first.
No worries, mate.
What I imagine for the future is it will be the community, and then there will be right. So I'll start back. So the logo, not the logo, the tagline of Web3 Adventures is leveraging connections and elevating people, and that's literally what I've been doing all my life. But now in Web3, I want to do it even more, and I have been doing it even more. And it all started when people started messaging me to help them with different stuff, right? But I can't help everyone, and some people I don't want to help because it's not interesting to me. So then what do I want to do? Well, I can pass them on to different people, and then I can get referral. Cool. But then you don't build anything that way. You obviously get some cash flow, but that's boring. I want to build. I want to build something big. So I thought like, right, instead of me passing on the leads, why don't I have like a group of people that I can call in whenever we get an exciting project, and it's literally like Avengers Assemble kind of thing. And then the long-term vision is that we will have like big enough projects and clients that people, like some people, even if they're too busy, or other people can apply to work within this. It's kind of like, I don't know what to call it, but it's, yeah. Instead of the work being decentralized, which I know we love, it will be centralized, and in that way, people will be able to contribute to projects that become bigger, and it will be all under certain values that people agree to, and yeah, and it's something that you build equity in. So that's the main thing. Yeah. So instead, like, and the reason for that, so there's another one. The reason for that is because I know in the future I will get that one huge idea that I will want to take to VCs, right? And I've been speaking with VCs, and I've also been attending some of these like demo days, and a lot of VCs care about people that have worked together before, right? And how am I going to say, right, well, we worked on this project by did this, someone else did this, someone else did this. So essentially, I outsourced the stuff that I couldn't do. While with my business model, which is not innovative at all, I can say, well, all of us came together, we built this, we took it to market, or we failed to take it to market, but this is how it went. And yeah, so that's part of it. And I really need to put this on paper better, but that's how it is. So back to the whole leveraging connections and elevating people. Probably the best example of that happening was back around August, or was it even July? No, it was August. I wrote about Argentina, and then this amazing, ambitious guy reached out to me, and we set up a call. And I just saw something in him, and I was like, wow, this guy's gonna be a winner. And then not long after, I think it was even 2 weeks after we started speaking, I connected him with a DAO, and he got the gig, just because of that. And obviously, he's super qualified. That's why he got the gig. He didn't get it just because I recommended him. And in Argentina, people don't get paid very well. So any money that comes is like, wow, it's really good. So he got the gig, he got paid, and like I still speak with him like every single day, and I could over time see how his life is improving. And I'm not going to mention his name because I'm not spoken to him about that, and what I can say all these things. But one day I'll get him to do a video testimonial stuff. But yeah, and yeah, so and now actually he's pushing for a second gig with the same DAO, and yeah, it's just amazing. And yeah, and then the same thing's happened to another friend of mine who's a backend developer, and he's a startup founder that's a friend of mine building something insane. And I told him, look, you should look into this guy. I've been speaking with him. I know what he's built. He's got that hunger, and all the people that I recommend, they have very certain qualities that I have as well, and that I can 100% recommend without a doubt. And then yeah, the founder reached out to him, and now they're speaking about my friend joining the company. So this kind of thing. But then figure out, yeah, that's it pretty much.
I love that for many different reasons now. Well, on one side, you said in the beginning, to start from start to end, VCs tend to invest into people that have worked together before. And that, from my experience, one big reason, they are able, or they prove that they're able to work under pressure together, right? And if they have a conflict, they're able to resolve it in a way that doesn't result into, let's say, into crashing the company.
Yeah.
And that's a huge quality sign, because most of the time the startup is failing in the early phases because of the team, right? And not because the idea is really bad.
Yeah.
Or usually it is, but you could improve with it, with a good team. And that's the first cool thing. And the second one is that you're actually connecting and helping, supporting people to, let's say, you bring projects together, you actually create value by connecting people, you create trust, because on one side, the DAO, for example, knows, hey, well, Mitko is a great source for at least developers, right? So he knows some good devs, cool stuff, right? Quality design. And on the other hand, you have your friend who sees as a quality connection as well, and is also both of them are super grateful, likely, at least super likely, and that results into, let's say, long term, the possibility or opportunity that maybe with zero expectations something comes back, and that's the amazing thing about these kind of things.
And there's one more thing that I wanted to add in there. Like one of the main things actually is the way that this thing will work in the future, and it currently is working like that as well, but even more so in the future, is like the whole business is built in a very Web3 way, where in terms of compensation. So in the normal world, you let's say I get a client, I outsource the work, but I pay him hourly or whatever it is, and it's that arbitrage of value and of time, and we don't do that. So when someone comes to us and then well, back in the days, right now, like look, anyway, his name is Lucas. Yeah.
Wow.
Uh,
If you repeat it, it doesn't get better, but yeah.
He the way it will work, let's go with that. The way it will work in the future is when the client comes, this is the budget, and then depending on the type of works he wants, we'll show that to the people that are in the squad and be like, right, how much work do you want to do? You want to do only 20%? Well, you get paid 20%. If you can do a lot more, then you get paid a lot more. So it wouldn't be something like, right, you're going to do work that is worth 10K, but we're only going to pay you 4. I don't want that. So that's, yeah. And then obviously the company will have to keep probably 10%, but maybe that 10% will be tacked on from the company that comes in. I've not figured that out.
I'm fully with you. Web3 at least tries to stand for that, right? Value to the people, that peer-to-peer thought, so that there is, in best case, not really a middleman or someone in between, right? But oftentimes, I own a small Web3 software agency, and it wouldn't work if my employees get 101, like the amount of money that we actually get, right? Because the company has the risk, we get the customer, we spend a lot of money and time with marketing, branding. So I fully agree with your point. That's just one thing, especially when you grow, which might get back. That's my assumption, strong assumption, that goes into that Web 2 way back again. Because most Web3 companies are super small and tiny, right? There you can't do that because you don't have that many costs, right? And you have much more advantage long term when you just help people. That's super important and should always do that. But when you grow, it could become difficult because, well, you have your costs as well and your risks.
Absolutely. And it's the reason why it's currently working is because the people that are contributing have these values and kind of mindset that is very entrepreneurial. So for example, none of us gets paid, none of us gets a salary, right? And none of us will, but in the future there will be people that want to contribute, but they wouldn't want to take on that risk. So for these things, then we will have to come up with a different strategy. So they'll need to be paid for X amount of work, X amount of hours, whatever, and it'll be constant, so they can still contribute, but without the risk that the other ones don't. Because right now, I've said to Lucas, before that, I was like, if we don't find anyone, man, we got to figure out what you want to do, and I'm going to help you, of course. But and it's the same for me. But that's why at this very early stage, it's everyone has the exact same hunger and mindset that you got to be out there, you got to be going hard every single day. So yeah, but in the future, that will change. Some of it will change. But yeah.
Love it. Cool stuff, mate. Hey, I would say, if you don't want to add anything else, do you have maybe 3 key takeaways you want people to remember from this 6 session? No. Or 1 or 2, I don't know.
No, I can't think of anything right now.
Sure, feel free to share. You have my explicit, let's say, what's the English word? I ask you to share if you want to share something. Feel free to. I asked you, so it's fine.
Don't want to share anything. if you like reading about businesses, the newsletter is there. If you want to learn from the people that I'm going to be bringing up on Twitter Spaces, then you're more than welcome to. One thing that I'm really trying to go with the Twitter Spaces is get really concrete advice. So a lot of the founders that I speak with have been very successful in Web2, sold companies, millions, whatever. And I really want them to go in detail about, for example, how they've grown their user base, how they go about hiring, what they've struggled with, and all these concrete stuff that you don't get in, in some other ways. So it's just the type of value that I'll be trying to get through with the Twitter Spaces. So if that's of interest, then you can tag along. I remember, I think it was next week at some point. Tuesday, yes. Tuesday, yeah.
Yeah, today is the 2nd February, just for everyone listening to this in a couple of weeks. So just to avoid confusion. But
so I suppose one message that I'll leave then is this thing where I mentioned about my goals and having only 2 of them. And that thing I learned from Sean from my first million is figure out the best thing that's going to move the needle for you with your business, and then focus exclusively on that. And don't be afraid of missing out on other things, but that is mints or other drama or something fun, and just focus on that.
Focus is a superpower. Yeah, awesome. Hey, really amazing, Mitko. Really enjoyed talking with you. It was, from my impression, a really authentic podcast. Really enjoyed it. And yeah, thanks everyone for watching. As mentioned in the beginning, I will put all relevant links to Mitko's socials, newsletter and everything into the comments or in the video description, wherever. And yeah, see you soon.
Okay, good. Thank you for having me.
Wavect, the web-free software company that understands what you want.